All right, guys, so let's look at these problems. Number 1 on the warm-up says, the leg of a right triangle is 5 units and the hypotenuse is 8 units. What is the length in exact units of the other leg of the triangle? So remember, when it says exact, it means we are not rounding. We're leaving our answer in radical form, okay? So since 8 is the hypotenuse, that must equal what letter, A, B, or C? The hypotenuse is always C, isn't it? So we're going to do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So one of our legs is 5. We don't know the other leg, but we know the hypotenuse is 8 squared. So now what do? We're going to square 5. We're going to square 8. How do we get B by itself? We subtract. Very good. So we're going to subtract 25 from both sides. So I'm going to write B squared is equal to 64 minus 25 is 39. Is 39 a perfect square? It is not. So since it asks for an exact answer, we're going to leave it in radical form. So the answer is the square root of 39. Okay, square root of 39. All right, how do we do on that one? All right, number 2, the legs of a right triangle are 4 and 7. They want the exact length of the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is which letter, A, B, or C? Always letter C, correct? So we're going to do 4 squared plus 7 squared is C squared. What is 4 squared and 7 squared? So we have 16 plus 49. So 49 plus 16 is 65. Is 65 a perfect square? It is not. So we're going to find the square root of both sides and leave it square root of 65 because they want an exact length. Square root of 65 units. Good. All right, the last one for the warm-ups, to the nearest meter, what is the length across the pond? So this part of the triangle, which part of the triangle is this picture? The hypotenuse, right? So look at our numbers. They're exactly the same as what we just did. 4 and 7. So we've already done this problem. The difference is this one says to the nearest meter. So is our answer square root 65? Nope. So we're going to find the square root of 65, whatever it is. And my calculator says 8.06. So what is my answer? To the nearest meter, my final answer is how many units? Yes, good, good, good. 8 meters. All right, how do we feel about those, you guys? Everybody good? Okay. All right, let's look at a few more problems. I'm hoping this will help you after Thanksgiving for your mid-module quiz. Number 1, Dennis calculated the missing side length of one of these triangles using the Pythagorean theorem. The question is, which triangle is it? Yes, Ashlyn. This is a multiple choice question. All of you can send me an answer. Is this a trick question? Do we have enough information to answer this question? We do. Can someone unmute and tell me what the answer is and why?
It's D because that's a right triangle And
That's
the other
exactly
one?
right. She said it's D because Pythagorean theorem only deals with right triangles. I agree. Good answer. So the only right triangle is D, so that's the only one Dennis would be able to use the Pythagorean theorem to help himself. Thank you. Good. All right, number 2, this is a review of what we just did. If we want to find out the length of this diagonal, we're going to use our pencil or our math because we know how to tell how far apart points are now. We're going to figure out the 2 legs. So this leg down here is 1, 2, 3 units long. This leg is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units long. And then we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what the hypotenuse is. So we're going to do 6 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 6 squared is 36. 3 squared is 9. It says round to the nearest hundredth, so 45 is not a perfect square. So I'm going to find the square root. Yep, good, Ashlyn. My calculator says 6.708. So what is my final answer, you guys? Final answer. I'm rounding to the nearest hundredths. So you got to look at the number in the thousandths position, and we get 6.71. All right. And always double check your answer. Is that the longest side? Is that number bigger than 6 and 3? If it's not, something's wrong. All right, this is the question about walking from one friend to the next. All right, so everybody take a minute and do that problem. So basically you're finding the perimeter of the triangle. All right, so if you counted the lengths, we see that these guys live 8 miles apart. Or units, I guess. And these guys live 8 units apart. And did I count that right? Did y'all get that same thing as I did? All right, so then those are going to be the legs, and we have to figure out what the length between Derek and Frank's houses are. If Frank walks from his house to Derek's house, then on to Evan's house. Oh, we don't need all of it, do we? Oh, we don't need the whole thing. Sorry. It doesn't say he goes back home, does it? So we just need these 2, this one and this one. We don't need this. He doesn't go back home. So anyway, we still have to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we have to use both numbers in order to figure out the diagonal, right? So we have 64 plus 64. So that's 128. So the square root of 128 is 11.3. So I almost did that problem too quickly, you guys. I almost thought, okay, where he's going all the way around like the other problem, but you got to read it carefully, like I did not. So rounded to the nearest hundredths, actually it would be 11.31. So if he went from his house to Derek, that's 11.31 blocks plus 8 blocks to Evan. So I have 19.31. Good, Lynette. Good, 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 good. All right, look at number 4. So anytime on a quiz or a test, it tells you to show your work. If you just give me an answer, I'm not going to give you full credit if you don't show me any work. So this says that these numbers 7, 24, and 25 are Pythagorean triples. Also 9, 40, and 41 are Pythagorean triples. I'd already told you before that 3, 4, and 5 are Pythagorean triples, but it says to explain why they are and prove it. So basically, you're going to take the two smaller numbers and let those be A and B and set it equal to the hypotenuse squared. Okay, and be careful because sometimes they might put the biggest number as the first or second number, and you have to determine which number is letter C. So to prove that that's a Pythagorean triple, you're going to plug in those numbers for A, B, and C. So 7 squared plus 24 squared. The biggest number is C squared. So 7 squared is 49. 24 squared is, 24 squared is 576. And 25 squared is 625. Well, 49 plus 576 is 625. So this is how I would prove that those are Pythagorean triples. Does that make sense to you? And if the directions say to do this for each set of triples, you have to do this one also. You're going to show your work just the same way we did with the first one, okay? So when you're doing a constructive response question, make sure you answer it fully. All right, last one right here. It says Jaden and Sheridan both tried to find the missing side of a right triangle. So here we have a leg is 7. And what is this 13? Is that a leg or the hypotenuse? So the question is either of them correct? Explain your reasoning. So what do you guys think? Is either of these guys correct? Either both are, one are, or none of them are. Only one is right. Lynette said only Sheridan is right. Does anyone agree with Lynette? Why is Jaden wrong? Sorry, Jaden. Not trying to throw you under the bus. Jaden's wrong because right here, guys, he did not use 13 as the hypotenuse, right? Sheridan did. You just want to double check Sheridan's work and make sure it's correct. I know that 13 squared is 169. I know that 7 squared is 49. If I subtract 49 from 169, it is 120, and the square root of 120 is in fact 10.95. So Sheridan is right. Explain your reasoning. That's exactly what I would say. Sheridan is right because he used the legs in the right spot and the hypotenuse in the right spot, so on and so forth. But that's our time, you guys. All right. I hope that helped.